Hi, really happy to have you aboard for today's tutorial. I'm Ray Scott and this is Visual Art Photography. Usually when I photograph flowers, I like to interpret them in such a way that shows how happy they are and how joyous they are. You know, you show the color, you show the brightness, that kind of thing. Well, today we're going to go in a completely opposite direction and really kind of make a bold statement and on something that's completely different. We're going to have flowers emerging from the dark. So the treatment is going to be casting a different light on a very popular subject. To achieve what we're doing today, you really have to underexpose your image. There are a few other tips and tricks that I'm going to pass along to you. Before we get going, questions and comments can be addressed down below. And let's take a look at the setup first.
As you can see, a pretty simple setup. I have one light to the left. I like directional lighting for this kind of thing. I find it adds a little more drama. We have a black background, and we're using tulips today. Of course, you can use any flower that you want. So we start off with our first image, which is not what we're looking for. I'm showing you this to show you that the vegetation, the green, is very bright, and the flowers are properly exposed on the black background, but it's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is something a little bit more dramatic, something a little more bold, something that is not quite so common. We're looking for flowers that appear to be coming out of the dark. Now this is shot, as you can see, with the black background, which means that your camera meter is going to want to overexpose the image because there's so much black there. So right away, I started with a meter reading of -1, even -2 stops. That's just to start with, and that's what this was shot with. But really what I wanted was flowers that appear to be coming out of the dark. So now you're going to be shooting at about -3 or maybe even -4. I was shooting in manual mode to come up with something like this. All right, a little bit more dramatic as we have the light coming in from the left-hand side and it's very dark below. Now, I did use a gradient tool in order to make it a little bit darker at the bottom. Now you can use a graduated neutral density filter used upside down in order to achieve that, or perhaps, as in my case, I used Lightroom, but you can use any software that has a gradient tool, and I darkened the bottom gradually up. It became lighter again. Now, I'll show you in just a few minutes how to do that quickly in Lightroom, okay? It's really, really fast and really, really easy. This one, same thing. I did not, having flowers coming out of the dark doesn't mean coming out of the black. I wanted a little bit of detail. I wanted a little bit of interest in the dark, so you can see a little bit into it. But on the right-hand side here, with the flower on the right-hand side, you can see it's very dark at the bottom, and then it just gradually gets lighter, and it's a really nice effect. Same thing here. The flower pushing right up out of the dark, right at you. You definitely know what the center of attention is when you're using this technique, right? Here, I've softened it a little bit, added a bit of a glow, plus it's a little bit darker on the bottom. But now you've got a situation where it's not really so dramatic. It's a lot softer, and that's because of the glow. But it's also low-key to a certain extent, right? All right, here's where I'm going to show you how to add that gradient really quickly. In my case, it was in Lightroom. So you're in Lightroom. In the Develop module, you go up to the gradient tool up here, that little rectangular icon there. I'm going to hold the Shift key because that will keep it very horizontal, and then I'm dragging up. Okay? And it's really that simple. I'll just adjust that. Now I've used a negative exposure so that you can see what you're doing here. This is the normal exposure. This is what we started off with. This is the positive, so you can just see how much it's affecting, and you can also bring it all the way down to black, but you don't want to do that. At least I didn't anyway. I wanted some detail down there, so I left it at a value of about -2 there. All right? So that's how you do it that quickly in a software such as Lightroom. Now we're not using tulips right now. What we're using are lily of the valley, and again, coming out of the dark. And you'll notice only one of those flowers is partially in focus. Everything else is pretty much out of focus, using a very shallow depth of field. on this particular one, f2.8. Previously, I was using apertures around between f5.6 and f8. Now, this is to show you that you don't have to necessarily use a black background to get the effect. This was shot outside on a sunny day, and I exposed for the white highlight, the white petal, and the sun was hitting the petal. But because of all the other foliage around, a lot of it was in shade and so on and so forth. So I focused on that, and I also exposed for the brightness, and everything else fell into dark. And you can see all the detail you want in the flower. You can see the texture and everything that I wanted to show, but everything else has really gone very dark. So it is coming out of the dark. Here, coming out of the dark again, and I've actually done a little bit of a spotlight effect, if you will, in Lightroom, and I'll show you how to do that another day. But again, coming out of the dark, and you see the texture, and you see the drama. You just don't usually see flowers presented this way, and that's what we're looking for today, something just a little bit different, okay? And again, coming out of the dark.
So there you have it, a very bold interpretation of a very popular subject, flowers. Flowers actually appearing to emerge from the dark. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you try it out. Until next time, I'm Ray Scott, reminding you it's not what you see, it's how you see it. And I'll see you soon.